Chapter 13. Nicholas Flamel. Dumbledore had convinced Harry not to go looking for the Mirror of Arise, and for the rest of Christmas holidays, the invisible cloak stayed folded at the bottom of his trunk. Harry wished he could forget what he'd seen in the mirror as easily, but he couldn't. He started having nightmares over and over again. He dreamed about his parents disappearing in a flash of green light, while a high voice, cackled with laughter. You see, Dumbledore was right. The mirror could drive you mad, said Ron when Harry told him about these dreams. Hermione, who came back the day before terms started, to took a different view of things. She was torn between at the high of Harry being out of bed, roaming the school 3 nights in a row. If Filch had caught you, and disappointment that he hadn't at least found out who Nicholas Flamel was. They had almost given up the hope of ever finding Flamel in a library book, even though Harry was still sure he'd read the same somewhere. Once term had started, they were back to skimming through books for 10 minutes during their breaks. Harry had even less time than the other two because Quidditch practice had started again. Wood was working the team harder than ever. Even the end, less rain that had replaced the snow couldn't dampen his spirits. The Weasleys complained that Wood was becoming a fanatic, but Harry was on Wood's side. If they won their next match against Hufflepuff, they would overtake Slytherin in the House Championship for their first time in 7 years. Quite apart from wanting to win, Harry found that he had fewer nightmares when he was tired out of training. During one particular wet and muddy practice session, Wood gave the team a bit of bad news. He'd just gotten very angry with the Weasleys, who kept bombing each other and pretending to fall off their brooms. "Will you stop messing around?" he yelled. "That's exactly the sort of thing you'll lose us the match. Referring this time, and he'll be looking for any excuse to knock points off Gryffindor." George Weasley really did fall off his broom at these words. "Snape's referring," he spluttered through a mouthful of mud. "Whenever he's referred a Quidditch match, he's not going to be fair if we might overtake Slytherin." The rest of the team landed next to George to complain too. "It's not my fault," said Wood. "We just got to make sure we play a clean game." "So Snape hasn't got any excuse to pick on us," which was a very well thought Harry, but he had another reason not for wanting Snape near with him while he was playing Quidditch. The rest of the team hung back to talk to one another as usual at the end of practice, but Harry headed straight back to Gryffindor common room when he found Ron and Hermione playing chess. Chess was the only thing Hermione ever lost at, something Harry and Ron thought was very good for her. "Don't talk to me for a moment," said Ron. When Harry sat down next to him, "I need to concern." When he caught sight of Harry's face. "What's the matter with you? You look terrible." He's speaking quietly so that no one else would hear. Harry told the other two about Snape's sudden and sinister desire to be a Quidditch referee. "Don't play," said Hermione at once. "Say you're ill," said Ron. "Just pretend to break your leg," Hermione suggested. "Really can't break your leg," said Ron. "I can't," said Harry. "This isn't reserve secret. If I back out, Gryffindor can't play at all." At the moment, Neville toppled into the common room. How he had managed to climb through the portrait hole was anyone's guess. because his leg had been stuck together with that what they recognized at once as the leg locker curse. He must have had to bunny hop all the way up to Gryffindor Tower. Everyone fell over laughing except Hermione, who leapt up and performed the conjuring curse. Neville's legs sprang apart and he got to his feet trembling. What happened? Hermione asked him, leading him over to sit with Harry and Ron. Malfoy, said Neville shakily. I met him outside the library. He said he'd be looking for someone to practice that on. Go to Professor McGonagall, Hermione urged Neville. Report him. Neville shook his head. I don't want more trouble, he mumbled. You've got to stand up to him, Neville, said Ron. He's used to walking all over people, but that's no reason to lie down in front of him and make it easier. There's no need to tell me I'm not brave enough to be in Gryffindor. Malfoy has already done that. Neville choked out. Harry felt in the pocket out of his robes, out of a chocolate frog, the very last one from the box Hermione had given him for Christmas. He gave it to Neville, who would, as though he might cry. You're worth 12 of Malfoy's, Harry said. The Sorting Hat chose you for Gryffindor, didn't it? And where's Malfoy in this stinking Slytherin? Neville's lips twitched in a weak smile, unwrapped the frog. Thanks, Harry. I think I'll go to bed. Do you want the card? You collect them, don't you? As Neville walked away, Harry looked at the famous wizard card. Dumbledore, he said, he was the first one I ever... He gasped. He stared at the back of the card. Then he looked up at Ron and Hermione. I found them, he whispered. I found Flamel. I told you I'd read the name somewhere before. I read it on train coming here. Listen to this. Dumbledore, it's practically for his defeat of the Dark Grindelwald in 1945, for the discovery of the 12 use of dragon's blood, and his work and alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Hermione jumped to her feet. She hadn't looked so excited since they gotten back the marks for their first piece of home work. Stay there, she said. She sprinted up the stairs to the girls' dormitories. Harry and Ron barely had time to exchange mystified looks before she was vanishing back, an enormous old book in her arms. I never thought to look in here, she whispered. I got this out of the library weeks ago for a bit of light reading. Light, said Ron, but Hermione told him to quiet. She'd look something up and something flicking frantically through the pages, muttering to herself. At last she found what she had been looking for. I knew it. Are we allowed to speak yet? Ron said grumpily. Hermione ignored him. Nicholas Flamel, she whispered, is the only maker of the Sorcerer's Stone. Nicholas, that didn't quite the effect she expected. The what? Said Harry and Ron. Honestly, don't you two read? Look, read that there. She pushed the book toward them, and Harry and Ron read. The ancient study of alchemy is concerned with making in the Sorcerer's Stone a legendary substance with astonishing powers that transform any metal into pure gold. It produces the elixir of life, which will make the drinker immortal. Immortal? It means he'll never die. I know what it means. There have been many reports of the Sorcerer's Stone over the centuries, but the only stone currently in existence belongs to Mr. Nicholas Flamel, the noted alchemist and Elpermer lover. Mr. Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday, said year enjoys a quiet life in Devon with his wife, Purnell, 668. See, Hermione, when Harry and Ron finished, the dog must be guarding Flamel Sorcerer's Stone. I begged to ask Dumbledore to keep it safe for him, but they're friends, and he knew something was after it, and that's why he wanted the stone moved out of Gringotts. A stone that makes gold and stops you from ever dying, said Harry. No wonder Snape's after it. Anyone would want it. No wonder he couldn't find Flamel in that study of recent developments in wizardry, said Ron. He's not exactly recent, if 665 is he. The next morning in the defense against the dark arts teacher, while copying down different ways of treating werewolf bites, Harry and Ron were still discussing they'd do with a sorcerer's stone if they had one. It wasn't until Ron said he'd be busy on his own Quidditch team that Harry remembered about Snape and the coming match. That's what Fluffy's guarding on the third floor. That's what's under the trapdoor. The sorcerer's stone.